Hello, welcome to Mart's Garage. I've kind of come to the point where I've done as much as I can with this motor. This is the old plodder motor. I've had a couple of goes at improving the oil pressure and with varying successes. I've improved it at high speed but not improved it at idle. But this motor is only in here as a temporary measure. This is the motor that I ought to be running in that car. I've done some work on it, including changing the PCV valve and building up the faces of the rear main, the thrust faces of the rear main bearing with Babbitt material to improve the crank end float. This is not the crank that was damaged and needed repair. This is the crank that I fitted to replace the one that was damaged and needed repair. I want to put this motor in. I want to see if the repair to the PCV valve has worked, and I want to see if the repair to the crank has worked, the modification to the bearings. Again, not to be confused with the other crank, which was really badly damaged. So this motor is built up and ready to put into the car. A side issue is that I've been working on replacement rubber gaskets for the oil filter housing, and this motor is the one that's piped for the oil filter. So when that motor goes in to there, I can test the oil filter gaskets. This motor's run its course now. I'm going to take this one out, put it on one side as a good, solid, dependable drop into any vehicle motor, and that will go into storage, and this motor will go back in the sedan. So I will bring it back when there's more to show. I'm not going to film taking it out. I'm not going to film putting it in. I've done that 1,000 times. Sorry, I exaggerate. I have done that many times and shown it coming out and going in. I always speed it up. So there's nothing new to learn there. So the next time you see this car, it will be running with that motor. Okay, that's enough of a rambling intro, isn't it? Just thought I'd bring you up to speed on the little things I've been doing. New filter gaskets, and a new filter, actually, thinking about it. Yeah, so let's give this a go. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye. Hello. I've got the big Inch motor back in the sedan. I've just spent quite a while, putting oil in it, putting water in it. I haven't pumped any fuel through. I want to do a few things. One of them is test, well, I'll have to drive it, I suppose, to see if the PCV works. The other is that I've got that built-up bearing in the on the rear main bearing of the crank, so that's all brand new. The other thing is I've got a new filter in there and a new seal that I've made myself. Right, for those interested in the seal job, I've done that up to 20 foot-pounds. I don't know if there's a recommended torque, but I've done it up to 20 to see if it tries to leak. The oil pressure is at its highest just after a cold start. It might be that I need to do it up a little bit tighter. I just don't know, to be honest. I just don't know. So I'll get the camera on the tripod and we'll focus in on here while it starts. I'd like to run it a little bit before I drive it to get plenty of oil around the rear main. Okay, right, you're looking right at the business end of it then. So first start, fingers crossed, I'll start it up and I'll shout out the oil pressure. priming the carbs electrically. I'm just checking for leaks. Okay, looks okay. That's 65 psi. Interesting noises. I think the oil system is still filling up, to be honest. Be interesting to know how much, you know, where it is. I made a new vacuum takeoff for my wipers. Keep it away from the pipes and things on the other side. Okay, I suppose I better give it a run round the block then, hadn't I? Back in a bit. noticed there wasn't loads of smoke coming out the engine when I started it. Busy, but not, you know, not stopped or queuing. Still got 70 psi at idle. Well, sorry, I'm lying, 65. Okay, doesn't it? Fuel pump looks okay. This area here looks okay. There's a little bit of oil there, but that was from before. Carbs look alright. This hose was leaking when I set off. That's alright now. Oh yeah. Yeah, okay. It's putting some water out the overflow. But I suppose that's just finding its level, isn't it? Righto. Okay. Right. Just put the electric fan on. Put the fan on. Yeah, there's quite a bit of water coming out there. Let's drive back. That's running down the front rather than zipping up the front. Okay, let's get cracking. Country line like. Okay, righto. I'll see you when I'm back at the house. I'm in a queue now. Alright. That's just over 60. That's just over 170. So we're just over about 190. That's about 180. That's about 190. Yeah, stop chucking water out. Got the fan running. I need to slow the idle down a bit. But that is perfectly bright. That's good, isn't it? Okay. Righto. So we'll call that a success then. The clutch feels nice as I'm pressing it down. You can't feel anything on the clutch. I don't know if that would show if the bearing was... Hang on, I'll turn it all off. Yeah, the idle's a bit fast. Yeah, good. So other than possibly just knocking the timing back a bit and setting the idle, I'd say that's pretty good. It is a little bit wet around the thing there. I'll have to dry it all off and give it another run. But this is fine, isn't it? And that's quite hot, that is. That's up at running temperature of the engine. Yeah, it's good. Because I had all these off, all the fuel pipes. So they're okay. The fuel pump's good. That's got a homemade gasket in the top, that has. Nice to have this motor back in, to be honest. It's got plenty of oil pressure though, hasn't it? Blimey, it's got tons of oil pressure. I'll let it all cool down and I'll knock the timing back a bit, and when it's not so busy, at some point I will give it another run around. Okay, this is very difficult to see and probably even more difficult to film, but that is probably reading about +1 thou. It's very close to 0, as close as I can get it. You probably can't see it. Okay, so I'll lever it now and then we'll see what it says. Right. Okay, let's try and see what that says. Okay, righto. Well, that said +1 thou. Okay, and that is reading 5 thou now, so it's around about 4 thou. So that's very good, isn't it? That's good. That's good, I'm happy with that. So what I will do from time to time is I'll get that set up again and measure it again and just monitor it. So it would be interesting to see how that homemade built up Babbitt thrust face on the bearing copes with a bit more usage. But I'm pleased that that is only 4 thou. Because, for instance, if it was measuring 20 thou, I'd known that it had worn already. But it appears that it hasn't worn. I struggled to do these bearings, to be honest. They were the first ones I'd ever done. And I struggled a little bit with the machining, but I'm happy with a 4 thou reading. I would say that's very good. You know, for somebody who's kind of learning the ropes, if you like. Okay, righto. I'll take this off before I forget it and start the engine then, and I'll bring you back when there's more to show. slowed the idle down a bit. It was up around nearly 1,000 revs a minute ago when I pulled up. I don't know what that is. I'm going to have a look on the rev counter. I've got the fan running so it don't overheat. The oil filter is looking good. That's with 10 foot-pounds on the nut. So it just goes to show, doesn't it, if you have to keep tightening it up, it's because you've got a bad seal. That's quite hot actually. Well, that's still about 800. And it's about 45, 50 psi on the gauge there. And this is the same gauge, you know, that I had with the other engine, where I couldn't get it off the bump stops on the idle. If anything, this engine has got too much oil pressure, which sort of sets me thinking, what would happen if I put the oil pump from the other engine into this engine and the oil pump from this engine into the other engine? But you know, that's an engine out job, isn't it, again? But yeah, so that was a good road test really, because I opened it up. I'll turn it off now. Maybe I'll leave the idle at that. It's all right. Right, I'm going to turn it off. Yeah, the temperature's all right. Okay, let's have a think. So, there we are, another road test. So what have we proven with that road test? 1, it drives really well without rattling, with the timing backed off a little bit from where I had it. So I'll kind of just register that there. Let's see if we can focus in on that. Yeah, so there we are. So that's probably about 1 mark away from centre. Everything looks okay. It's not belching oil out or anything. So that PCV must be working. My vacuum hookup appears alright. I don't know how you can tell if it's alright, but it appears okay. The oil filter's not leaking, and as I measured it earlier, the crank float is showing a, you know, reasonable number. So there we are. That's the big Inch Flatty back in the sedan with the issues taken care of. The damaged crank has been removed. This crank has been fitted, and utilising some hand modified main bearing, the rear main bearing is working well. The engine is running right without rattling by just moving the timing a bit. If you can imagine the crank thrusting like that, like it was, and the fact that it's a helical gear, the timing is advanced and retarded depending on whether the crank is at the front or the back. So that was probably why that problem was worse, because it's borderline even now with only a very small amount of free play. It's charging well and it's cooling well. You know, what more can you want? And the oil filter is working even after being loosened off, turned 90 degrees and retightened, and actually to a lower torque than I had it the first time. So, you know, what's more to prove? It's all good, isn't it? Okay, that ought to be a conclusion for quite a few videos. So I hope you've liked all the videos that have led up to this, showing the repairs to this motor and all the various things, the PCV, the crank, the oil filter, all these little side issues. Okay, as always, thank you very much for joining me in the garage. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers then, bye.